Okay, we'll just do a 3, 2, 1 thing and just go shoo. And how's that sound?
Was it Kachoo?
3, 2, 1.
Kachoo.
Megatron must be stopped, no matter the cost.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special bonus episode of the Autopod Decepticast. We're here to talk about TFCon and also share our interview with Mr. Ron Friedman, writer of Transformers the movie.
Amongst other things.
Amongst a lot of other
G.I.
things.
Joe. We're in the middle of the Joe reviews.
That's true. But before we get into all that, I think all the listeners just can't wait to hear about your birthday.
Well, first of all, who are we? You haven't introduced us.
If you're listening to this by now...
No, you got to do it. It's always somebody's first
I didn't
podcast.
write a thing.
Well, you're Aaron, I'm Ryan, that's Caleb.
All right,
We're the
enough.
Autopod Decepticast. We covered the Transformers movie for 2 years, and now we don't know what to do anymore.
I don't think we like each other.
We do on air.
It's all for show.
No, it's.
This
By
is
the
going to
way,
be
Aaron,
a bad episode.
your beard is glistening.
I know. I
love it.
I put
It's magnificent.
I put pomade in it, and it's not beard pomade; it's hair pomade.
It's magnificent.
And it's all I have right
You
now.
going to Alamo Draft House tonight?
In this? Yeah, it looks like does it look like I drool
No.
all over
What are you going to go
myself?
see tonight?
Captain Marvel
Oh, sweet.
with the whole fam.
By the way, we would love it if Alamo Draft House or Marvel Studios would sponsor us. Thanks. We just mentioned
Throw it
you.
out there.
You're welcome.
Well,
Next time they do a Transformers thing, they should make us host.
Sure.
I would
I mean,
love it.
I'm going to see Captain Marvel tomorrow afternoon with my girlfriend.
I need to do that.
Birthdays.
So we're talking about my birthday?
Yeah,
Yes.
Because my
Yes,
birthday
a month ago.
Let's realize my birthday was in February.
Right. But
So
we
it was
played
a
it.
month
So we
ago.
played it. Well, I mean, we played. Your birthday's the end of February.
I don't care. I mean, I'm
One episode ago, in the minds of listeners, it was your birthday, and Ryan and I owed you birthday presents.
So you guys are gonna give me birthday
And
presents
we'll-
today?
Yeah.
But I
Oh,
mean,
this is awesome.
I mean,
did not expect
mine
this.
were en route, and they
It's fine.
are here. And if you'll turn around, I'll force you to
Oh.
get it since
Hold on.
since you're blocking.
Let me make this.
Mine is the pink one next to it.
Oh.
No, that's not that one. Move
Oh.
that out of the way. That's
Oh,
mine.
oh,
It's good.
that's- Damn it! I had to move a really nice gift out on the way to get a.
No, not that.
No, yeah, not that.
I wouldn't call that a gift, but that is.
This is a Transformers Siege War for Cybertron trilogy Shockwave.
That's right.
Ooh,
Happy birthday.
thank you.
It's got all kinds of ancillary.
His
like,
shoulders are so big. So can you briefly tell me? I mean, obviously it looks awesome. Looks like he turns into a ship.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like he can ride on himself.
He has a secret gun mode.
armor.
Okay, and tell me a little bit about the War for Cybertron universe. How this
This is just another kind of
Storyline?
throwback. I don't know much about the storyline, but it's just another G1 throwback in the main line here, where they're trying to use the characters that old crusty people like us know and love,
yeah.
and maybe just their designs are honestly, especially the Shockwave, pretty authentic to the G1 experience. But they're all on Cybertron.
Yeah.
And there's there's battle damage and paint and stuff. Like,
Yeah, it's cool.
Yep.
A lot of detail.
dirt
There's
and muck.
there's strange little watermarks on the packaging. If you show them the light, there's like a Decepticon symbol there.
Oh wow.
It says, I thought it said 90210, but it actually says 92LG. I don't know. But anyway, there's a lot to look at here. This is great.
It'll be fun to flip around on your desk. You're gonna have to post some
Yep.
Twitter Deskbot pics.
Deskbot.
I will.
So now Ryan can present his present,
Thank you
which
very
will
much,
be
Aaron. This is
better
awesome.
than mine.
I
Ryan,
don't think so.
Oh, you don't think?
Well, I don't know.
I'll be
Yours
the
is
judge
legit.
of that.
It's the pink polka dot wrapping
Oh.
paper.
Oh. All right, let me put down that there.
Unwrap it on mine. Yeah.
Oh,
People love ASMR, baby.
which is always
What's it gonna be?
as loud as possible. I think that's the secret
Yeah.
to an ASMR video.
It's like
It's It's a shipwreck. It's an original
And
shipwreck
I-
G.I. Joe figure.
I did say last time, repeating what you open it to say what it is a bad sign. But I feel like since we're describing it,
Yeah.
that's not true.
So Ryan got me. This is also a cool gift. This is a G.I. Joe shipwreck figure, complete with his parrot, and it comes with the file card that's been cut off the packaging.
it also has his gun.
Yep, it's got his little.
I think it's missing just the grappling hook.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
Do you know if that was the original release or
It
like
is.
a subsequent? Like I don't know when did that
I think
figure
it was
come from.
84,
It's in good
85.
shape
okay.
too. This is fantastic.
Just,
I love it.
Whenever I got that off of eBay, and I had to buy them like this, the figure and the card separately.
Oh, really?
Well, you can buy them together, but it was cheaper getting them separately for this instance.
that
But
one.
like the guy that I bought the toy from, one of the descriptions was a little concerning. It said he will stand on his own if you position him right.
Sure.
And I took him out and he's fine. He stands just fine.
That's great. No, Shipwreck's my favorite Joe character because he just
that looks great.
it's in
Like
good shape.
there's no scuff in the
Yeah.
paint. The color actually looks nice and saturated still, and it feels like it was either a collector or a kid who didn't play with his stuff very much, like a Caleb.
I played with my Joes a lot,
Oh, did you? Okay.
but I didn't like bash them against the ground or anything like that.
Bash a hammer into one of
Into their heads.
Boom! Thank you. This is very thoughtful. Both of these gifts are great. Obviously, Ryan's is better,
Well,
but no, thank you anyways.
Congratulations, Ryan.
I win this round.
What else do we want to talk about before we get into Ron TFCon? You guys have any questions for me?
Yeah, Aaron went.
We did
We did
not.
not.
We didn't get to go.
Well, we chose not to go.
I
Ryan actually
could have
wasn't
gone,
capable of going.
but it would have put me in the workhouses for a debt.
And now you guys are planning to go to Toronto, and I'm like out
maybe.
on that.
We've
Maybe.
been talking about it, but like as a collective, we were also talking about a group vacation to a beach
Yeah,
somewhere.
I think we were
Sure.
talking Toronto because we were all high off of your experience in LA, and we're like, we
Yes.
need to go. I don't know. Personally, I'd love to have an Autopod Decepticast TF Nation tour in 2021.
You heard it here first. Brits.
We're coming for you.
So it was awesome, by the way. It was sad not to have you guys there.
Yeah,
Of
so
course,
sad.
I missed you.
For the fans, especially.
Fans?
Yeah, you met some fans.
Yeah, the
Some
fans were like,
listeners.
where's the other guys?
I got that so much. No, it was awesome. I'm looking at the schedule here to just try and remember what I saw there, and I think I didn't really get in on anything until this Five Faces of Darkness with
On
Flint
Friday
Dilley.
night.
So Friday night I show up and I was solo. No, Mike hadn't shown up yet. Mike Seibert was there.
So you were already wasted by that point.
Well, I was drinking, and I go to the bar. And, actually, it's not when I got to the bar. I walked by and I sent you guys a picture. I was like, holy shit, that's Flint Dilley and Buzz Dixon
Yes.
right there at a table together. And
It was a hilarious picture because you can tell who they are, but the focus is racked on some random dude in the
It's like you
background.
totally took it in here.
it's because I was pulling a Heather and
Yeah.
trying to get my spy cam on. But I said to myself, what would Melody do, who is my wife, who will never let any potential celebrity encounter go unencountered?
Has talked to celebrities for you.
Yeah. And I said to myself, I'm just going to do it. I know they're sitting at a table enjoying some nice quiet time together, but I went and got a drink.
You know
And
they're sitting out there in public.
They're hoping everybody will
Yeah,
come up and just
on.
like, I know who you are.
They wanted to be left alone. They wouldn't.
Did we say who? We said who it was, right?
Yeah, Buzz and Flint.
Okay, but
We did.
Yeah.
And I got myself a drinky, and then I sat there for a second, and then I just walked on over to their table.
Which
They were super nice. I came up to them. I said, I know who you guys are.
And I know what you did.
And then I pulled out my pistol. And
Oh.
but I said, hey, I know who you guys are. I know you're Flint and you're Buzz. And I've got a podcast, the Autopod Decepticast. We talk about all this shit. And they were very nice, and Flint was, of course, gregarious. And I think he might have said, "I've heard of you guys," but I'm sure it was in like a nice.
We're very big in that.
He's remembering Ryan talking to him in October,
and he said that that probably is what stuck in his head. But and he said, we've been talking about going on the podcast circuit. We need to do your podcast sometime.
Okay,
so he did say that.
Are you going to follow up with that?
Well, people say things.
I mean, I tried to reach out to him before TFCon to see if he would
time to do it again.
But anyway, I talked to him for about 5 minutes. I had this giant backpack on behind me the whole time, so I know that I was annoying the people in the table next to him because it was sticking out.
Screw those people.
I met some
Did you
listeners.
So you had your big backpack.
Had my big backpack.
Did you give him any merch?
I don't remember.
He's so drunk.
No, I did. I gave Flint, Dilly, and Buzz Dixon merch. I gave them buttons.
Fantastic.
Buttons.
So that's an end. All I'm saying is, go back to these guys. Let's get them on a podcast. Let's interview them.
It's possible. They're not hard to reach, I don't think. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Then I went in and saw the Five Faces of Darkness screening, and I don't think I watched the whole thing. I think I watched about half, and it was interesting. When you guys were there with me, did you watch the Five Faces thing?
I was pretty drunk by that point, and I remember I think you and Melody and Mike were in there, and I started watching it, and I got through about. Well, he paused about every 10 seconds, and so it was about an hour, and we still hadn't gotten out of the opening credits.
Right.
And I was pretty drunk and starting to nod off, and so I dipped out, and Mike was like, "Is Ryan okay?" And Melody's like, "Oh yeah, he just does that."
So in that experience in Chicago, which I thought was a cool idea, he did stop a lot and tell stories. He would be pause, tell a story, pause, tell a story.
Yeah, it was just Flint up there on his own.
In this one, he actually brought Buzz, and I'm trying to remember who else he brought on stage. Oh, man, I'm blanking out. But they brought on stage, and it was I think he was hoping to have more banter between them. But what actually happened was that fans just took it upon themselves to ask questions while the movie is playing.
Weird.
So he wasn't doing a pause thing. The movie's just playing in the background. Fans are yelling out like questions, some good, some inane, and he's answering them.
That's bizarre.
And they ended up started to turn down the volume so that they could, and that's just what that just became what the panel was.
All
It was
right.
fine.
I'm cool with that because people could probably recite it from.
Well, it's more about him being there anyway. What do you want to watch? Watch it with Flip
I guess
Billy?
if he's not talking himself, I guess that's what you would do.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, Saturday, I got up late, as you might imagine. I got up about the time Mike got in, and we walked the floor. I'm trying to see. I went to the costume contest. That was the one thing I was really hoping to see because we were out in LA.
Those are awesome.
And I knew that there was going to be the baller cosplay. And it was. They did a great job. I don't know who won because I didn't stay the whole time.
Did you meet any of our cosplay listeners?
I don't believe they were there.
We've got some followers on Twitter that are in cosplay. It's sure cool.
True. Yeah. Shout out to All Hail Megatron, Wine Ant Bono, and DJ Lemon Poppy Seed. They are phenomenal. Let's see. Door prize. I missed that. And then
what happened about the movie? Showing.
Oh yeah. I guess Hasbro said that asked the lawyers called and asked to take it down, which was weird because they did the Five Faces thing, and nobody's charging for the movie unless you want to say that nominally. But I guess I'm assuming TFCon didn't pay for the rights, and
yeah, I guess it's that FBI thing in not public or private. But I don't know. Basically, Hasbro sent a cease and desist that TFCon could not show Transformers movie.
I mean, I get it. It is their intellectual property, but I also feel like it's not a good way to endear people to your
It's a strange move.
Yeah, and what are you really going to get out of it at the end of the day?
Right, it's not, and I guarantee you almost all these people own multiple copies of that movie.
Right. So, the other I missed the third-party review, which is the thing I really wanted to do, but I got distracted. But I did see the Transformers movie panel with Ron, Neil Ross, Paul Eating, Douglas Booth, and Flint Dilley, and that was fun. And I was wondering, I think maybe more than me were wondering if there'd be some tension in the room, and honestly, there wasn't. Everybody, like Flint and Ron in particular, acknowledged each other's contribution to the franchise.
They did sit them on opposite ends.
They did.
Oh, I was kidding.
Well, they were on opposite ends.
Okay.
I believe Ron and Neil Ross were on one end, and everybody else was on the other. But that was great. And then I probably just got drunk.
There's nobody to know.
Well, no, actually, that's not true. Then I interviewed Ron Friedman, and then I got drunk.
Yes, that was Saturday evening. You interviewed Ron.
That's correct.
Poolside, as you all will hear in a little bit.
That's correct. And then later that night, when I was drunk, I interviewed. Or I didn't interview, I met, rather, David Mendenhall. Actually, that day I met David Mendenhall, voice of Daniel, and Michael Horton, voice of Chip Chase. So I've covered all the kids, I guess, except for Spike himself. But I met Michael Horton at the bar. I was next to him at the bar for about an hour and a half, eating and drinking and just talking about life, and that was really nice.
Wow.
And then David Mendenhall, I was obliterated, but not so much I couldn't hold a conversation, to me.
let me tell you the texts that we were getting that evening.
Oh, okay.
I went to the bar and got drunk. I think I'm going to go ask Flint to go drink. I want to ask him for a 9FFFFFFFF, the record convo. I'm for real the weirdo, the background D right now. LOL, I'm just now seeing how nonsense my tweets are. I'm worthless.
Which you meant texts.
But I'm still going to ask him a mineral barcade. Everything is fine, extra E. I just bumped into Yoshi. We chatted and he left me. 4 hours later, I get a single text.
Which is 3 a.m. our time, 1 a.m.
No.
LA.
1 a.m. LA, but then, no, actually, that's earlier in the evening, but then 2 hours later, Aaron sends a text. Because he goes, I just bumped into Yoshi, we chatted, and he left me. And then a couple hours go by, and then Aaron goes, everyone leaves me.
Yes. There were no texts in between from us or him. And it's a real bleak, weird late night text.
That's it.
I woke up and saw that, and I'm like, oh, no.
So you ran into Yoshi?
And Vangelis, we all chatted a really long time. It was really nice, and shout out to them. I did hop on really late, unfortunately, but the podcasters panel on Sunday. But Sunday for me was just about walking the dealer room. I didn't really catch that much in terms of panel action, but that is what it was. But I did get the opportunity. It was great to meet up with Flint Springer, as he is known right now, but Dave Cabal. And of course, Johnny Utah. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like he and I, we hung out quite a bit at the bar.
Never far from the liquor.
He's a great guy. I think I was mentioning that I met David Mendenhall, voice of Daniel, and I told him the story of our panel at TFCon and how a great portion of it was dedicated to his character. And I was like, don't take this the wrong way, but a lot of people...
Oh, you said this to Dave Mendenhall.
Yeah, David Mendenhall. I said, don't take this the wrong way, but you know, people think Daniel's annoying, right?
Oh, yeah, and then you explained how we thought he was awesome.
We're deeper. Like, we're so great.
Of course, my touchstone for him is Over the Top, which is one of my favorite movies.
Was he like...
He was very sweet. We hung out a long time. And with others as well. And the next day I bumped into him, and he he was like, I just want to tell you I had a great conversation, and I really, really appreciate the story you told me.
That's awesome.
And that's how he is a good person.
Yeah.
I was but he was at the bar too. So
you have like those cartoon bubbles coming up over your head and popping.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sure
like the Homer's last night out kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're one to self-deprecate, but I'm sure you were great. I'm sure you were pretty buzzed.
I do walk away from situations like this where, like, I'm on vacation, right? So if I'm on vacation, I'm like definitely in super drink mode.
That's what I say about 6 p.m. every Friday.
Right. But I'm also have this weird combination of loud and overly talkative and gregarious combined with self-doubt. Not really self-doubt, but self-consciousness for sure. Mm-hmm. So all that adds up to me waking up every morning. Oh, fuck, what did I do?
You need a court reporter to follow you around.
Because I was walking around large groups of people and just striking up conversations, but I feel like that's just what you're supposed to do at these things.
You did
that
great.
Sounds terrifying.
that's what you do at a convention or a conference. You do network and you do talk to people.
And Seibert was there with me almost all
Mike
the time.
Seibert.
He was great. His uncle was there. Actually, two of his uncles were there.
Really?
Yeah, and so had lunch with them. Of course, Michael Andrews and Caitlin were there, and certainly don't feel like I got to see enough of them. They had their own thing going on, a lot of stuff off-site, and so it was great to see them as well.
They went to the barcade. I saw some pictures of that. That looks pretty cool.
And they went to the Star Wars bar.
Yeah, the cantina thing. Yeah, that looked cool too.
I didn't go to that. But yeah, we need to get them. We need to get them on the show because Michael Andrews is great. I can't get enough of him.
I'm really bummed that I didn't get to see Michael and Mike again.
I'm trying to make sure I'm not forgetting anybody. I'm positive I am. But made a new best friend. Shout out to Jason Wiltshire. He was there I think he was in the Five Faces of Darkness. He is actually one of the people that yelled out a question. And then we just struck up a conversation that night, and then we just kept seeing each other and ended up hanging out. Basically, every time we bumped into each other at the bar, man. We kind of like buddied up.
That's what TFcon's all about.
He's a good guy. So I'm sure people have had enough of TFCon talk. But I want to say the one thing I bought there, other than lots of sort of signed. That's another story. Was this little Legends class Megatron by Iron Factory, and he's pretty baller.
Yeah, look at that.
I also got. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention I met Vince DiCola.
Oh yeah, yes you did.
Soundtrack.
We tweeted out a picture of you and him.
The soundtrack to Rocky IV and his album Invincible.
Nice. I love it.
Nice.
Yeah, he and then we gave him one of those. You gave him one of those diet. Not diet, but Vince DiCola buttons.
In the style
he thought it was great.
Yeah. He took the buttons. He was very sweet about it. He's been very nice on Twitter.
I'm gonna see if I can get him and Ed Frugier on the podcast. I'm gonna see if they can get them together because they collaborated on Transformers and Rocky IV.
You have to take the lead on that.
Oh, okay, sure, yes.
I mean, you're the music guy.
Yes, absolutely.
He's a what? He's a what? He's a music man. Okay. So now I'll present to you, gentlemen. I had to pay for one of these. One of them was given to me for free. I'd like you to read the inscription.
All right. So everyone, those of you who've been listening, we've been trying to get the I Killed Optimus Prime manuscript for a long time, but finally Ron did put out the book, so I have the book here in my hand. Aaron just handed it to me.
He said he had the manuscript if we wanted it. He said he couldn't get it all printed out before he left.
I decided against it.
And I said, is there anything in the manuscript that would make it better than the book for any reason? And he said, no, the book's better.
Yeah.
And so I called you. You said you didn't care. And so now you have a book in your hand.
And all right, so there's an inscription inside. Okay. I know, before I open this, I know you on the interview, you tell them that I'm threatening violence. I would rather, just for the record, I'm not threatening violence on anyone.
Of course you weren't.
So
that was a joke. The joke was in our text exchange. I kept saying that.
Yeah.
And you kept saying, no, don't say that. So the joke was, it was really just a wink from me to you of saying
it's not really a joke. It's you just antagonizing me.
No, I think he knew I wasn't going to drown him in the pool.
No, it wouldn't be me. It wouldn't be you. He's afraid of me now.
Everything's fine.
Okay, let me open.
Read the goddamn inscription.
Okay. To Caleb, a man whose biblical name is befitting for one with godlike appreciation for fine literature. Modestly, Ron Friedman. Mm-hmm. Good Lord. Yeah, my name is Hebrew. It means obedient servant or faithful dog. And,
excellent.
Ron Friedman, being of Jewish heritage, recognized that. Wow, that is quite a thing.
He spent time with it.
Did he really?
He was the slowest autographer at the whole damn thing, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Well, I got
fantastic.
Aaron handed me a copy as well, which is inscribed, and then I got another little treat. It says, to Ryan, the unindicted co-conspirator with Aaron, Mike, and Caleb, all exquisite patrons of fine art. Modestly, Ron Friedman.
I love his inscription. I love what he writes.
And since we're at it, I'll just read mine. To Aaron, a man of infinite and immaculate good taste in the literary products of a genius who shall remain nameless, Ron Friedman. He didn't say humbly in mine. Modestly. He didn't say modestly.
But I sent a PDF of the first page of our script, Transformers movie by Ron Friedman, and Aaron was good enough to get that signed as well. It said, I tweeted it out earlier this week, Said, to Ryan, I loved seeing this iconic page in my lifetime. Thanks for your appreciation of my efforts and half-assed immortality. Ron Friedman.
It's really cool. Well, awesome.
I guess with that, there's no better way to just cut from this banter and go right into the Ron Friedman interview. So thank you, first of all, to Mike Seibert, who met me out there. He agreed to help. My vision for it was that he and I would be co-conspirators in the interview. I really thought that he was going to be able to participate, but as it was, he was the technically minded guy. He made sure that he had the mics and the recording equipment all set up. We didn't necessarily have the right forum for an interview where he could sort of participate, because we ended up recording by the swimming pool at the hotel. And I was working with the hotel all day long to try and secure a room that could be secluded. The point is, we had to record by a hotel cabana, by a pool cabana, because I couldn't get a room.
I am curious, why didn't you record in Mike's room?
Well, I thought it was creepy and weird
I guess that's true.
to invite somebody to a room to record. Although Ron Friedman did invite us to his room, I said to him, I'm assuming you'd be more comfortable not in your room. We've got a nice little pool cabana, and voila. So that's where we recorded. We finished recording. I look at my texts, and there's a text from the hotel saying, we've got a room for you, and they were going to give it to me. But anyway, so I guess I present the Ron Friedman interview.
Here we go.
All right, let it rock.
Welcome to the Autopod Decepticast. This is your host, Aaron, and this week we're going to take a little break from the norm. I am here at TFCon Los Angeles with Mike Seibert, and with a little for an excellent sort of circumstantial situation. I have the opportunity to sit here with Mr. Ron Friedman, comedian, novelist, writer for film and television, dating back to, shall we say, the early 60s, or would you...
the first show I wrote was my favorite, Martian, which was in 1960.
Okay, we'll say 1960 then. But we'll focus on your animation time, I think, around Transformers and G.I. Joe. But we'll meander around the fringes of all that.
Okay.
You've worked on essentially every show that is ever broadcast from 1963 to today. I will name drop a handful that had the most connection to me, but listeners know that you could triple this or quadruple it. And he's worked on a lot more. So collaborator, writer on shows. I'll start with the Danny Kaye Show, Gilligan's Island, Andy Griffith, Get Smart, The Odd Couple, Chico and the Man, Starsky and Hutch, Fantasy Island, Fall Guy, Iron Man and the Fantastic Four is part of the what do you call it? Marvel Action Universe.
Right.
So it's an honor to thank you for talking to us, Ron.
It's
welcome to the Autopod
Decepticast. I don't often get to sit by a pool and not get splashed.
Well, there's no guarantee you're not going to get splashed.
Well,
first
then,
of all,
then I'll resign. But let's continue while
we're still dry.
Yes.
So are you enjoying? First of all, I have to say what I believe is your first.
This is the first time I've attended a Comic-Con where I'm actually representing my interests. Other than the first time I attended, which was with Stan Lee, when we created the Marvel Action Hour, and we were flogging it at the San Diego Comic-Con.
Like by flogging it, like just hanging out?
Creating a wild interest in the showing of the material in the hopes that it would run for 45 years.
Right. How are the residuals from that going?
Animation and residuals are mutually exclusive. Animation was created by the same people who gave you slavery.
Oh, great.
Yes, and
that's a hot take.
The fringes are assassination, starvation, and deportation to an unlisted country.
Right.
So, and those are the ups.
I love it. So I also, before we get way too into this, I have to give a shout out to my friend Caleb, who really we wouldn't be talking right now if it weren't for Caleb, because he
I'll
purchased
get you
a
for
manuscript.
This, Caleb. Yes, he did. The manuscript
he purchased
of the book.
a manuscript, and he gave me full license at one point to shake you down with moderate violence if necessary for that manuscript.
I have it. I just didn't have time to finish printing it up. because of the difficulties I have. I'm writing a play. I'm finishing it up. I have a Broadway producer, an actor studio director named Howard Storm, who directed all of the Mork and Mindy shows. He's brilliant. And I have a little rewrite to do, and then we're going to make an offer on a major star to star. I'm also teaching, and in the month of January I was teaching 3 4-hour classes a week for the entire month, 2 days off, and I'm teaching again 2 3-hour classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also working on a few scripts
Mm-hmm.
and avoiding former members of Trump's cabinet. So it's a full-time job.
And and of course the book that you're hawking here, that I Killed Optimus Prime.
Yes,
it's in its printed form.
it is indeed.
And it is there's words on paper.
Yeah, and
the ink is dry.
The startling thing is it's #1 on the Amazon list for books about television.
Congratulations.
After only about 48 hours being available.
Well, how long have people been waiting for this book?
Obviously, all my life. I wish I'd have done it when I was 15.
I believe I've seen.
We'd now be speaking from the south of France.
I believe I've seen video from you from at least 2016 talking about this book.
Yes, I seem to be a popular interviewee, and I've done a number of podcasts. Most recently, a podcast with Gilbert Gottfried.
I've heard of him.
Which I recommend strongly. For some reason, it went through the roof. I've had hundreds of emails. And they're going to be pitching my book as well. And Gilbert Gottfried, speaks like this.
Yeah, he was the Iago before or after there was an Iago.
And he was the original Aflac Duck.
That's true. That's
yes.
right. He has one of the. I'm sure as a guy who's been around the scene, you're familiar with the joke that is called now I'm blanking out. The famous joke that is about the family, and every comedian has a riff on it.
Oh,
the aristocrats. Thank you,
exactly.
Goodness gracious. He Gilbert Gottfried has one of the most famous
and
aristocrat
one of the most
takes.
Filthy.
Right, of course,
yes,
of course.
That to me.
Do you want to tell us your version of the aristocrats while we're here?
No, because it takes too long, and everybody knows the punchline. But I'll give you a very short joke, which is an example of writing something funny that anybody can say and get a laugh with.
Okay.
A comedian
I could use
is
that.
properly referred to as someone who says things funny, and a comic who's somebody who says funny things.
Okay.
So in my writing career, I've had to do stand-up, and I didn't want to, but I began wanting to be a playwright. But William Morris says, you're funny and we can get you work. So I wrote for a lot of comics, many now dead by popular demand. And when I would write it and they would say it's not funny, I'd say it is. They'd say, you do it. So I would do it in some of the country's leading toilets, which is a term of art for a mafia-controlled nightclub where the men's room attendant usually quit because he couldn't stand the smell from the kitchen. So a quick joke is, let me think a moment. Yeah, doorbell rings at a whorehouse. Madam opens the door. There's a guy in a basket with no arms and no legs. She says, what are we going to do with you? He said, I rang the bell, didn't I? 2, 3, 4. Anybody who doesn't get this, send for the brochure. I rang the bell, didn't I? You do not have to be a genius to get a laugh with that.
Well, I mean, legless humor is it's big with the kids.
Of course.
Okay, I'm glad you brought up stand-up comedy. And actually, maybe let me get back to that because I want to give you some context. We've been talking via email for a weekish or so, maybe a little longer.
Yeah.
And to explain what it is this podcast that I'm a part of and Mike is a part of have done is that we are such big fans of this stupid movie from 1986 that we made the creative quote-unquote decision to dissect and analyze. We all have day jobs, right? And we have better things we could be doing.
Do any of them involve dry food? Or
well, actually, mine involve wet food, but that's neither here nor there. We'll get back to that later. But what we've done over the past couple of years is dissected 1986 Transformers the movie minute by minute. So essentially, we will spend an hour or so, give or take, talking about one single minute of screen time. We started at the very beginning and took it through to the very end, and now we're talking about G.I. Joe and other things. We love the movie so much, and as friends, the three of us that have worked on it, you know, it was an excuse for us to get together, and we figured that our our charisma and banter and general good looks would be enough to actually make it a good thing to do and people to listen to it. And people have listened to it and they do like it. And so that's why it is a privilege for you to be here.
Yes,
your name's on the goddamn screen. So
yes, it is.
And so that's the context of where we're coming from. I just wanted to kind of give you that full picture because it's special. That movie is very special to us, and I know that you probably have. I mean, maybe you've known longer than you would own up to, but obviously there's a culture here that
there is. It's amazing to be part of somebody's obsession.
Yeah.
Without being a drug dealer, so it's fascinating to me. But I understand it absolutely because I too was a fan of many comic books, many animated shows, many novels, and so on. And I understand the affection for something that engages your imagination and also stimulates your desire to be creative in your thinking. That's terrific. Also, to me, it guarantees a positive, fair-minded outlook on the world and one that welcomes the idea of science as a potential giver of joy and improver of mankind. And I'm all about the idea that when we're young, those of us who are sensitive and intelligent are often abused. We often recognize injustice when we see it done to others. We resent the fact that we're unable to do anything about it. But it becomes part of our growing experience that part of our transformation, and we all transform, part of our transformation is toward the arc of justice and making something worthwhile happen.
And change for the
change
positive.
For the better and for the positive. So I think the growth in science and the ability of a general audience now to recognize science as something magnificent has to do with science fiction, has to do with Transformers, has to do with the Marvel Universe. So I recognize that I was like this as a kid, and part of the thrill I had with the assignment of G.I. Joe and Transformers was that I'm going to be contributing to this literature, which is inspirational.
Did you probably, there's no way you could have had a clue at that time as a seasoned, you'd been writing shows for 30 years at that point, but did you have any sense that there was something iconic that was being created or being,
no,
that was going to create this?
I always gave my absolute best effort to every assignment I had. And when I was writing something that was shit, it was the best possible quality of shit imaginable. I take pride in giving my all, and also when I feel that something is worthwhile, I give it that extra push.
There's no reason to do something if you're not going to try, even if it's something you're not necessarily passionate about.
Yeah,
do it well or move on.
That's exactly right. I have an obligation to do that. When I was an architect, I did the same thing, and I was an architect for 11 years before I elected to become a writer. And when I announced to my wife I was going to become a writer, she says, "I'm taking the children. Let me know if you ever make a living again." And in my first year as a writer in New York, I made roughly 10 times what I'd ever made in my best year as an architect.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you brought this up because you either studied under or studied with Frank Lloyd Wright.
I was invited to Taliesin West one summer because his chief draftsman saw a competition that I'd won and said, "Would you come?" And of course I went. And it was
you don't say no to Frank.
Well, we weren't on first name basis.
Okay.
And he actually hit me with his cane. "What is this? Something is amiss?"
Nothing's amiss. He's telling me that we've been on 15 minutes.
Okay.
Just letting you know where you're at.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't know how much time I have with you, but
well, let's go until I say,
I need to take a shit.
Enough. Yeah.
Okay, let's continue with Frank Lloyd Wright then, please.
Well, it was interesting. His chief draftsman was Wesley Peters, who invited me, later to become distinguished by marrying Joseph Stalin's daughter. So at the time, I thought, what a great father-in-law. Did you ever have dinner together? No, he's busy starving Ukraine to death. But call tomorrow. He may be finished with that. Anyway, it was fascinating. It was cult-like and bizarre. And my fond memory was being met at the bus stop by a guy dressed in Renaissance brocade on a day in which it was 114 degrees, and Gila monsters were vomiting. Mm-hmm. And I asked, why are you dressed for the funeral of Dante? And he said, well, the maestro likes a bit of Boccherini on a Sunday afternoon. And he drove me out to Taliesin West. And here are a bunch of people sweltering in the sun, dressed in Renaissance brocade and silks and pantaloons. Anyway, it's a memory best left.
Best left detailed.
Earth.
Best left
Yes.
detailed right now. Please continue. I'm kind of
let's
feeling
get on.
feelings.
Let's get on Transformers because that is your.
Well, it is.
That is your
it
area
is.
of interest.
It is, but the thing is, your career is storied and great. So I don't want to leave too much on the side, but I also know that we could talk all day about non-Transformers things. So I'm hoping this is fun.
Yes.
I've developed a game that I would love to play with you for a moment, if you would permit me. And
Yes.
the name of this game is called Ron Script or Bullshit. And basically, it's going to help us cover a lot of time. So what I'm going to do is, if you'll permit me, I'm a little nervous to ask you.
No, you can't be nervous because I wrote this so long ago.
Okay.
I believe I wrote it in Aramaic.
So, well, this it won't be centric to Transformers. This is centric to other shows.
Please.
So I'm going to provide the title of an episode of television.
Okay.
You tell me if it's a script you worked on or if it's something I just made up right now.
I will certainly know.
And okay, well, let's kick this off.
Okay.
Here we go.
Is this for the Cadillac or the lethal
What I'm going to
injections?
give you, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7. You get 5 out of 7. I'm going to give you a poster and some Autopod Decepticast buttons.
Oh my
I'm going to
God.
give you some garbage that you can put in a box and forget about.
I'm
Are you ready?
Go ahead, Monty. Door number
Okay,
4.
here we go. I get your nanny. You get my goat. Is that a Ron script or
Yes.
bullshit?
No, I wrote that.
You wrote that? What was that from?
I'm trying to remember whether it was
I'll
from
tell you it's
the
from
Ghost
Bewitched.
and this Bewitched. Yes, I wrote a number of Bewitched, and I also created the practical joking warlock character of Uncle Arthur for Paul Lynde.
Yes.
And I love Paul because he was instant funny.
Okay. Clifton's Sugar Mama. Is that Ron script or bullshit?
Winston Sugarman.
Clifton's Sugar Mama.
Oh, yeah, I did that for That's My Mama.
That's right.
Clifton Davis.
Ding, ding, ding. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So far, you're doing really well. Anything you can recollect from that show, That's My Mama?
Yeah, I really enjoyed doing it. I liked Clifton. I liked, what was her first, Teresa Merritt. And I also liked Joker, I can't remember his last name, who was a brilliant musician. They were really, really lovely people.
How about this one? Okay, The Girls of Hollywood High.
Was that BJ and the Bear?
Well, that's correct. Okay, Ron script. That is so you're doing a great job. That is BJ and the Bear.
It's only my life, and I haven't looked at it lately. So
That's
please
this
continue.
is a memory game.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to test you here. Okay.
Yeah.
The Grim Reaper wears a Teflon coat. Ron script or bullshit?
I do vaguely remember that. I'm trying to remember what the episode was. Was that? Was that?
Let me. I'll give you a hint.
Iron
Excelsior.
Man?
Okay. You got it. Nice job. That is an Iron Man episode. The Lady and the Longhorn.
That was in Love American Style, I think.
I mean, here's the thing. I'm going to give you the point because it is one of your scripts, but it's from Fantasy Island.
Oh yeah. Well, I did
The
54
Lady
Fantasy
and
Islands.
I'm trying to test you
Yeah,
here.
well-
I'm not trying to make it easy.
54 Heinz had 57, and they were all pickles. So this is a little different.
So I think you've already technically won this prize, but I want to continue. Danny and the Mob. Did you write that?
I did. That was from the Partridge Family.
All right. Psychic Schmeikic.
Schmeikic.
Okay.
Yes, I did that, and let's see, was that Gilligan's Island?
I'm going to tell you that it was an Oscar and Felix.
Oh, of course, that was The Odd Couple.
That's right.
One of my favorite shows.
This is the very last one. So far, you've gotten every single one right. I'm hoping that you get this right. The episode is called The Ghost of the Iconic Moment. Bullshit or Ron script?
The Ghost of the Iconic Moment?
Yes.
That doesn't ring a bell.
All right. Well, you're I can't trick you. That is not a show that you wrote. That's something I made up. So
I'm relieved.
I was really trying to. Well, it's not nice to mess with people's memories, but I did it, and I guess I have to move on with life and be happy with it.
Yes.
So okay, you've done a lot of stand-up, variety, half-hour, comedy, drama, TV.
Oh yeah.
Well,
movies of the week.
Talk about the learning curve from live action to animation. Is there a learning curve? Is it?
Well, I was very fortunate because I'm an artist, and I always loved animation, and I recognize what the iconography is about, but I also recognize as a writer that the animation world must be communicated to the background artists and the model makers and ones who create it in a way that they understand, where I have a reasonable opportunity of having what I envision delivered actually. So very often I would draw what I had in mind, or I would be able to describe it so the background artists or the animators or the model makers got pretty much what I had in mind. That is not the usual, because generally those who write never speak to the artists, and they don't share a vocabulary. So one of the things I've done when I teach animation is I get animators and artists in and compel the student writer to deal with the animator or the model maker, so that they learn to find some common way of expression in which they both can derive satisfaction.
It becomes more collaborative across functions.
Exactly, but here's the deal. We are prisoners of prose. We grow up listening to stories. If we're lucky, somebody we care about reads it to us, but generally someone will read to us when we're small. And I will give you an example of the magic of being read to. An evil king of great wealth has a beautiful daughter who comes of age, and he sends a proclamation out to all kingdoms within reach and those beyond galaxies to send the princeling of their choice to see if he can win the hand of the princess. Do you see what I mean? And the answer is, you see nothing. I've described nothing. But you don't care because you're a prisoner of prose, and you have created sufficient imagery just listening to satisfy your necessity
I'm in the place
of hearing the story and knowing the story. That doesn't work if you're writing a screenplay. You must specify and exactly what it is you want the audience to see on that screen. More than that, what it is they need to understand when they see what you present to them. Because really, writing a film script, animation or live, is a process of visually educating the reader and ultimately the viewer to be able to follow the sequence of events and use what they have been taught in successive scenes so that they can process what's coming next.
Well, it's almost a logistical instruction guide as much as it is. When you're writing a novel, you are creating imagery, and you can allow for the reader to come along with it. But in a screenwriting, you have to give explicit instruction, I'm assuming.
You are making a what is called a production drawing or a working drawing. It's the equivalent of a conductor of a symphony can look at a symphony, hear all the instruments, and as he or she is reading it, say, the piccolo comes in too early in bar 331. It's the same as an architect or engineer looking at a working drawing and say, you can't put a door there, this beam is too deep, there's no headroom. The same for those who read a script with knowledge. They hear the sound effects, they hear the dialogue, they hear the music, they acknowledge the special effects, and it is all orchestrated in such a way that the reader can process and see the movie.
Right.
That's the secret of doing it correctly.
I think that as a person, as you were a draftsman, architect, that is probably an innovation into itself into screenwriting, into thinking that, thinking about that holistic way of trying to connect the dots of people's jobs to bring it to life.
But also, as an artist myself and a sculptor, I understand the medium, I understand the process. I'll give you an example of the inability of the most specialists in different fields, the difficulty of having them communicate. When the Challenger fell apart in midair, NASA issued a contest for a lot of money for someone who could devise a device that would digitize an image immediately and be able to do that at 9 separate locations, so that those who made products that were involved in the construction of the rocket could sign off before launch, so that if there were a defect, those who had signed off would be identified immediately.
And held accountable.
With the Challenger explosion, it took many months before they determined that the cause of the disaster was
O-rings.
an O-ring, which is a gasket. Okay, this way NASA hoped to be able to put the fire under the feet of the manufacturers whose components went into the launch vessel, so that they would immediately have access and get redress, and also identify who was responsible. Well, an engineer named Chuck Stone, with 2 kids from, I think it was Cal State Northridge or UC San Diego, he invented a camera and an Amiga platform, which was a primitive computer, to immediately grab and digitize an image, and able through the internet to send that image anywhere simultaneously, and also to capture a signature and digitize it at any remote location. So he won. His lawyer was a guy I played tennis with. I said, I want to put him together with a great animator, Bill Melendez, who was my good friend and did Peanuts from day one, and did Garfield from day one, and probably won more Rubens and Emmys than any living person. And I said, I want to put them together and see if we can use this grabbing of the image with an animator and animate something rapidly.
Basically, you could scale animation at a faster rate, I'm thinking.
Absolutely.
I'm guessing is where
you
you're
grab
going with
an
this.
image,
Okay.
you can just tickle it, and then
Right.
grab the next one, and immediately you're animating. In less than 4 hours, we animated Peanuts. We animated 2 Peanut strips where Snoopy runs up and down the road. We changed the color. We put sound on it in less than 4 hours. This was unheard of. Normally that would take several days to do all the original storyboard, then do the in-betweens, and then film it, and then on a pencil test, and then finalize it and do the color and so on.
Right.
So I said,
You could chopped out a lot of middle people.
we have
and-
achieved the new era. Unfortunately, the animator hated the engineer, and the engineer hated the animator. And they couldn't talk to each other, and I could not be an intermediary.
So you couldn't facilitate the innovation.
No, but it was the right move.
Right. Well, so I'm glad we're transitioning to animation. I want to, but like before we go into Transformers, I do want to talk about a little thing, 1985 CBS special called The Romance of Betty Boop.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite jobs.
You also have a voiceover on that one.
I did a number
you
of
have
voices.
an acting credit on that one.
Yeah.
You're actually your voiceover you're credited as ethnic voices.
And also, I was the parrot.
And the parrot. Did the
Yeah.
parrot have an ethnic voice?
No,
I watched it. It's on YouTube.
But he did a Franklin Delano Roosevelt impression.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Losing both your jobs. We have nothing to fear but fear itself, and losing both your job.
What gave the entertainment world, or you, or the producers of that program, what made you think Betty Boop would be the right thing to make in 1985?
Well, because I created Defenders of the Earth for Hearst. Hearst said, and Hearst also put me to work to make a musical out of the comic strip Jiggs and Maggie. And I did write the book and wrote the lyrics, and everything was set to go with Mickey Rooney, and they hoped Carol Burnett. And Mickey Rooney destroyed it, although everybody else loved it. But I won't go into that. Mickey is dead by popular demand, and may he rest. But where was I? I'm backing up. Yes.
We're talking about Betty Boop.
Hearst had Betty Boop, which they felt was a potential wonderful character, But the fact was there was no Betty Boop. There was no character. There were no Betty Boop cartoons other than pornography. And Betty Boop was a big star in 20s and 30s pornography.
Right.
But who was Betty Boop? What is she really? What world does she live in?
She's not a character.
No.
She's just a beautiful naked animation cell.
Yes. And by the way, she was drawn by Grim Natwick, who was the artist who also did Snow White. And I met Grim Natwick when he was in his 90s. Bill Melendez introduced me, and he had the ability to draw a young girl's arms and legs so they looked voluptuous and they could be animated brilliantly. And that was Betty Boop. Anyway, when I was told about that and come in with my ideas, I said, I see this as a depression musical, where Betty Boop is a hard-working girl who wants to marry well, and I said the Iceman is her boyfriend, and opens it because it's a musical with "Are the stars out tonight? I don't know if it's cloudy or bright, 'cause I only have eyes for you, Betty." And it was ice, not eyes.
Right.
Anyway,
I watched it.
They said, let's do that. And so I wrote it and had a great collaboration with Desiree Goyette, who did the music. She was terrific, and she was the voice of Betty Boop. And I love Bill Melendez, who was a great friend of mine, and Lee Mendelson, who produced it. And I was extremely pleased with it, and anytime I show my class that, they love it.
The plot, it's sort of depressing. As a man, I guess.
It's a depression musical, and Betty Boop, of course, was a flapper. She wanted to be a.
She wants to marry up. She spends the production chasing after the idea of this guy. There's an eligible bachelor that wants her, but he's just an Iceman. She gets with the movie star she wants. Turns out that he just wants her to be a maid for his mother, if I remember correctly.
Upstairs maid for his father, who was a senile lecher.
Okay. So then she comes down to earth a little bit. She's taken off her high horse. She gets back with the Iceman, or she gets with the Ice. She's like, you know what? I shouldn't have treated you that way. Maybe you're an all right guy. But then she gets a call
from Hollywood,
and then it just ends there and leads you to say, is she just gonna forget about this Iceman again? Is she?
Naturally.
Was there a statement you were trying to make with this? I guess is really the question here.
Iceman is not a business for the future.
We all want ice.
Well, we don't want to schlep ice up 42 stairs.
He was in good shape, though.
Yes, he was.
He was a handsome man. Okay. Transformers. I'm going to skip over all my G.I. Joe questions.
I have no music in Transformers.
Did you actually do any? Oh wait.
I
don't know if you did
of
any voices.
I did a lot of voices for G.I. Joe. I modeled a lot of voices.
Yeah.
Including, Shipwreck? Jack Nicholson. I said, it's got to be Jack. So I modeled.
How did you pick Jack Nicholson as a reference? How did that even?
Because it just sounded right for a guy with a parrot.
Did you do the parrot on G.I. Joe as well? Your background in parroting?
No, but I did a lot of different voices, and I like doing voices. And on the Marvel Action Hour, I did a bunch of voices. One of the most difficult was Blast Star, which is a character nobody gave a shit about, but I enjoy doing Blast Star.
I think you've talked about this before. I'd love to just get it down in stone for my own benefit. You have very distinct philosophies on writing for kids, and I think that comes from experience you've had in working with kids from a psychological aspect.
Yes, I will tell you a very interesting story about the psychological aspect of working with kids. When I was still in architectural school, what the hell do you call this guy? Geez, I suddenly can't remember the post. A very important academic post, second only to the dean, the provost.
We'll call it the vice dean. Okay, we'll go provost. All right.
The provost was a guy named Elliot Dunlap Smith, from a Yale family, very distinguished New England family of scholars and businessmen. And I took a course with him, and he said, "I have an opportunity for you. I think you have the ability to profit from it." And I'm in architectural school, but I'm taking a lot of courses in different things. That was part of the Carnegie Plan, where you were encouraged to take courses outside of your discipline. Anyway, he said, this is a consortium of toy manufacturers that are using our Department of Psychology in our School of Business Administration, then called Industrial Administration. It was the first university to give a degree in what is now the MBA.
Mm-hmm.
And he said they are studying children and their response to toys and games.
Mm-hmm.
And you're my candidate to participate in this experiment. So I said, great, let's do it. What do I do? And what I did was I would play with children with specific toys and games under the observation of the head of the psychology department and people from the manufacturing end who were paying for the study. And what I learned is, first, the kids liked me better than a lot of the other people, so I ended up being one of the main people that participated in the study.
And why did they like you?
Because I liked them.
Okay.
It's very
They've
simple
sensed
with
it.
children. They recognize if you like them, they like you.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I was having a good time because I helped them have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a lot of toys that were really crap, but the kids liked playing with me. So it didn't matter if the toy was bad or not. But one of the big learning chunks that came out of it was the following. Children need a degree of time to become acclimated to something that's new and different, particularly a toy or a doll or a dummy or a game in which characters are involved, iconic characters. That told me that when I was offered G.I. Joe that I didn't want to do it in a 22-minute segment because there were too many characters. It would have been a roll call, not a show, you know, and the kids would not have been able to bond with these characters. So that's why I wanted to do it in 5 parts, and it worked.
So
It was valuable information to be used years
at a later time.
Yeah.
It's so that insight, honestly, it paid off for G.I. Joe and for Transformers.
It did, absolutely. And also it paid off for me as a father, because my kids, I recognize, need to have a father that spends time with them and registers as a dad and not just as a disciplinarian or an absent force that's frightening.
Mm-hmm. Wow, you just made me rethink how I need to approach my stepkids.
It does help if they know you like them.
Right.
And it also helps
I love
if
them,
you are,
just for the record.
if you are sincerely eager to see them do what pleases them.
Yeah.
And also to excel.
Yeah.
The pursuit of excellence sounds pompous, but it really is the only game in town. And that's why my favorite definition of happiness is the ancient Greek definition, which is Norman Lear's favorite definition and also John F. Kennedy's favorite definition. I read it first in the book The Greek Way by Edith Hamilton, I don't know, maybe 60 years ago. And the Greek definition of happiness is this: the exercise of vital powers along lines of excellence in a life that gives them scope. That,
or
to
in
me,
one
is
word,
the game.
purpose.
That's purpose. But purpose of the highest level and the exercise of the most you have to bring to the table.
Absolutely. I
That is
agree
it.
with that wholeheartedly. I have those conversations with my family all the time about it was like what we were talking about earlier. Do something as well as you can.
Always.
Or move on to something else and do
Exactly.
it as well as you can.
Yep.
And don't be a person that ever settles for less than what you really think you can put into it. And,
Exactly.
and that's where happiness lies. That's
That is
where
true.
success lies.
That is
and
success
that,
as a
and,
human
and,
being.
And that is and it's one of the most important things in life. It's
It
really
is.
just accepting responsibility, creating responsibility for yourself. Being not that we're trying to turn this into Dr. Phil or something.
No, Dr. Phil wouldn't get this far. He would just get into masturbation and money immediately.
Well, that's coming up next here. But one moment,
Oh,
Ron.
we're down to the M's, huh? Okay.
So, let's take this to Transformers. This is a concept that you have referred to as Transformers looked like garbage cans fucking, is a quote
The
of yours.
first time I saw it, that was my immediate thought. Garbage cans fucking. And then the next thought was, what interesting garbage cans.
Have you written? Is there an X-rated script of garbage cans fucking out there in the world that maybe is penned by you and under several piles of books?
Under no circumstances. And the reason is this: I take the responsibility for providing what I call accessible visual literature very seriously. and I want to be responsible about what I put in the minds of children. In my book, I go to great lengths to describe how, as a kid, I remember seeing Fu Manchu and thinking the yellow peril. Does that mean that all Asians are evil? And then the Japanazis, which was in a comic book, Superman, and I thought, well, wait a minute, the Japanese part is yellow, and yellow is evil, like Fu Manchu, and yet the Chinese are our allies, and they're yellow, and yet the Nazis are white, but not all Germans were considered bad. How is it that there could be Nazis, but not all Germans are evil, but there couldn't be good Japanese if the Japanese were our enemy?
Mm-hmm.
So I was determined not to lend any credence, any leverage, any handhold for bigots to leap onto something that I'd created or suggested. And I feel strongly about that, and I feel a lot of the confusion about what equality really means and about how color blindness is our obligation. I'll give you my example, and I always tell it to my students. Each of us is a serial killer and the Pope. Each of us is Rembrandt or Mozart or Bonnie and Clyde.
Mm-hmm.
Each of us is everyone else. So somebody who's prejudiced looks in the mirror every morning and goes, fuck me. So prejudice is an idiot's game, and the sooner we recognize the universality of the human condition, the better the world will be. And I've always tried to deliver that in a non-preachy way.
I feel like, certainly that morality around diversity, or just philosophically diversity, is a Joe and Transformers topic. I mean, you've got
I
characters
try to make
that
it
are,
that way.
even with robots, where there's not really a skin color, but you can tell there are cultural references,
and the
cultural
the
dialect.
The casting of the voices,
you have
of course,
kids
was
who
part of it.
are disabled.
Yes.
You have and they. I mean, and the '80s was kind of a time of that, of trying to frame
to
issues of racism and just multiculturalism, diversity in general, and create a society that was more accepting.
Well, we need to be accepting, because none of us are here long enough to make a significant difference unless we're evil as hell or brilliant as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us are in neither of those extremes. So our obligation is to leave behind us people who remember us with love and affection. And the only way that happens is to treat all that you meet with love and affection.
That's
and the readiness to forgive and ask for fairness.
From interviews that I've read of yours, a lot of great stories. Von Meter, Pat McCormick, Jonathan Winters, Jack Klugman.
Yep.
Do you have any crazy stories about hijinks, writer's room, that kind of thing, regarding the animation side of the work that you've done, whether Transformers, G.I. Joe, otherwise?
Well, I
would love to hear anything.
I never was in a writer's room in animation. I always worked alone. I just met the producer and then wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened subsequently is there'd be a little bit of rewriting, but nothing substantial. So I was always very pleased with what I wrote. G.I. Joe particularly, I don't think there were any changes that I didn't write myself. And in the Transformers, the movie, the changes were few. But this is what happens in the process. An actor doesn't deliver, you got to change something. The animator could not visualize what you had in mind, so something changes. It's a collaborative medium, as is all of show business, which is why I've had the same acceptance speech ready for years. As I hold my Tony or my Oscar, I say, nobody wins one of these alone. I wanted to, but the assholes wouldn't let me.
Describe your role then as it comes to, particularly, we'll focus on Transformers. I know that it seems as though you were involved in every single episode to one degree or another. What is the hierarchy, and where were you in the hierarchy? What function were you performing for that series?
Well, in Transformers, I was given the first 60-some episodes to rewrite, so as to create the characters that had a sense of humor, also to differentiate them in dialogue, which I did particularly with Megatron and Starscream, so as to create a kind of Shakespearean treachery, nest of vipers, and also to give some sense of humor whenever possible, so that it didn't feel grim and made Grimlock, look like everybody else, only with worse English. So in doing that, I familiarized myself with Transformers, and also had a sense of how I would proceed with the movie the minute they said, "Would you do a feature film?"
I'll try and, since we are a Transformers the Movie podcast, I'll try and we'll keep it centric to that. And your first draft, first of all, or at least what I believe is your first draft, is amazing. I don't know, do you own, who owns the rights to that? I don't know if you can even recall I know any differences between the early drafts and what are on screen.
Well, the first draft, Tom Griffin said, "You made the bad guys too interesting. I want you to do something again." So I did, and everybody was happy. But Michael Bay was thrilled to steal from both of those scripts, and that was really the core of the two live-action movies, which disappointed the hell out of me, because
a lot of us,
they were so fragmented visually. You had too many cameras going at all times, and if there was anything like a chase, you didn't know who the fuck was chasing whom, or which way.
Are they good? Are they bad? Do I care?
Exactly. I'll give you an example of geography in writing a script. Visualize the following: a desert with a cactus standing in the middle. There's a sound at the right of the screen of horses' hoofs beating and gunfire, and going past the cactus is a stagecoach where the driver is leaning over whipping the horses, and the guy riding the gunshot seat is firing back madly. They go off camera. You're looking at that cactus. Then here comes Indians. They're coming after, and the cactus is your visual reference that lets you know who is chasing whom. When you don't have a cactus and you have a lot of noise and you have cameras placed everywhere, you don't know if the Indians are fucking the horses or the people in the stagecoach are fleeing to Israel during high tide in the Red Sea. There's no way to determine direction, and with an inability to determine direction, you get the fragmentary
you need context
of what is it all about and why should I care. So anyway, it's easy to bitch about what somebody else did with what you liked.
Hey, that's you know what, there's about 1,000 people here that do that every day, that are doing that every day, and they all want to make choices and participate in those choices.
Yep.
Did you? I'm really trying to bring it down to the end here, but I've got so much. So one thing I am curious about that I think hasn't been covered in other interviews you've done. Did you work much? Did you know who Floro Derry was? He was an illustrator. I think he did a lot of the character models for the G1
no.
and did a lot of character models for. I didn't know if there was any working relationship between you and some of
in fact,
the illustrators and designers.
No, I was prevented from dealing directly with the animators, the model makers, and so on, which I regretted. I was asked my opinion of the drawings they sent me, and I always gave my opinion. And sometimes I was listened to, and particularly in terms of vehicles and also in terms of strange spaces like inside of Unicron, I made a contribution verbally, but only when I was producing the Marvel Action Hour was I really almost the acting art director.
Right.
And in Betty Boop, I was asked all about it because I actually designed the backgrounds for Betty Boop.
Those backgrounds are amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
The way that the style of the, like, I guess almost photocopied Xerox sort of photos
they
of the
were,
New York City skyline,
I
the texture.
I provided Bill Melendez
That was a very cool touch.
A Dover Press printout of a lot of New York scenes from the 30s.
Yeah.
And those became the background for Betty Boop.
Yeah, as a design and illustration purpose, I recognized that, but I didn't know that you had a hand in it. So I thought that was fabulous. I have to ask a question about the death of Optimus Prime because I think you just have to. It's cliche, but you have a book called
I Killed Optimus Prime, so sue me.
So, and I know you've spoken at length about how you felt it was a bad decision from a business perspective.
No, I will tell you why it
or
was
from
a
a
bad
story
decision
perspective.
From a story perspective. Because it's all about family. everyone recognizes what a family is. Even an orphan will create a surrogate family. If you're in the Army, you go into a new job, you create a surrogate family as quickly as possible. And really, in a new job, you want to know who Big Daddy is, who's Big Mama, who's the crazy uncle that moons the school bus, you know, who's grandpa that flashes the ladies across the street when they untie him in the attic and he comes down for the 4th of July. Everyone recognizes
That was
what
very
family
specific.
is. Everyone recognizes family. That's the touchstone. That's the touchstone in mythology. The Greek gods, the Roman gods, which were rip-offs of the Greek, the thing about the godlike characters is they had human flaws. That made them relatable. This is how it works. So I always look at when I write, and there are large character groupings, what's the good family? Who's the bad family? Is there a swing good bad person like Maid Marian in Robin Hood? She's able to be in the court of King John. She's able to be with the merry men. But she also can betray or carry messages and so on. So I look for the family analogy as the template. And in using that, I've always been able to create coherent groupings where people, audiences can relate because they recognize the familial qualities of certain characters.
So taking an Optimus Prime is disruptive. It's like a divorce or a death. Or
worse, he's Big Daddy.
Right.
By the very definition of Big Daddy, he is the center of the family culture. He is the arbiter of good and evil. He is the one that sets the standard, the admirable standard that any family member loves to live up to and will die trying to live up to.
So that said, and there was a you actually got a question today, or maybe it was a comment from the panel earlier that was something I'd thought that is like, I think that's correct, and it actually proved itself out commercially how that disruption was bad for the brand at the time.
Yes, you cannot.
But over the long
family.
term,
Yes.
there's something about that became so, because it was so disruptive, I guess, or because it was so iconic, for lack of a better word, it almost became a good thing for the brand, or in that because people remember it, it became the seed of something that made it bigger.
If you look at Downton Abbey, the moment when the young man, the young lord, finally marries the poor woman and they're happy and they have a baby, I'm watching and I know he's going to be dead before the intermission.
Right.
And he was. That I understand. But I also understand that the universe of animation is one that is more demanding of continuity. And that when you're going to disrupt, you had better disrupt by creating a disruptive force that is not in the family.
Right. There was less purpose.
Yeah.
It wasn't as purposeful of a disruption.
No,
really.
I mean, death does occur in families, but this was death in warfare, which is a whole other matter to deal with. Anyway, all I can say is I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I showed up, and I think I'll do it again because I've had a tremendous reception.
Good.
Yes.
Well, I will. Thank you very much. This is a professional. This is a professional here. You're our sponsor, Ron.
Yes.
Let's. We'll wrap it up. Where can people buy the book?
On Amazon.
I understand it's a hot seller.
Well, I was startled to find out that it became #1 in books on television in all of Amazon in less than 48 hours.
And the name of that book
Is I Killed Optimus Prime, So Sue Me.
And the insights that people will glean from this book, I'm sure stories about that you have about Transformers in particular, but it's also, I'm gonna guess, and I'm gonna buy it, by the way, a lesson in screenwriting as well, or maybe just writing. Would you say?
Yes, it does.
I don't want to put words in your mouth.
It does teach about writing because I think this is an opportunity for those that are interested to recognize the truth of what I say, which is if you wish to do it, if you want to do it, you probably can if you follow through. Because I was a dreamer all my life, and I've made my dreams come true by daring to pursue them. So I believe that what you wish to learn, you can learn. If your heart is in the work.
You have to manifest it in your head to make it a reality.
I believe in that absolutely, but I believe that's how our brains work. If you can visualize something, you're well on your way to making it happen, making it real. I've done this all my life. I've visualized what I hope to achieve. I've visualized what my agenda is and made my agenda in every meeting and everything that I've done. And it usually works because most people with no agenda are at the mercy of anybody with any agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And my agenda is to be excellent in whatever I do and to pursue it until they have to shovel something over my head.
I'll close it out. I could go on forever. I really could, and maybe we'll have the benefit of meeting up again someday, and I can ask some of these others. Are there any other projects or that you're working on? And I would love to. And I would also you've talked about being a sculptor. I think you're also a painter.
Yes.
Is that available for consumption by the public, or
Yeah,
is that something you keep in your basement?
I've been thinking of putting them on the website. My wife and I are both painters. We've had shows. We've sold. And I have hundreds of drawings, hundreds of paintings. So does my wife. And
I think a lot of people would love to see that if it's available.
We have to just photograph them and put them on my website, which we will do. I'm just building my website.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have a play right now, which is based on a factual book called The Secrets They Kept by Suzanne Handler. And the title of the play is now Love Her More. I have a wonderful Broadway producer, Donald Lowes, and a brilliant actor studio director, Howard Storm, who's well known for having directed all the Mork and Mindy's. And I'm very, very proud of that. And we're going to be making an offer to a major Broadway star, international star.
No,
shortly.
you're not going to name names? Or are
don't.
you saying just in the pantheon it's going to be a big star?
No, this is definitely a big star and
Okay.
a Broadway and West End London star.
Okay.
So I'm very hopeful
I'm going to
that
start
this will be
doing my math to triangulate who this
smash.
is.
Well, I'll be happy to tell you once a contract is signed. But
That-
I don't want to jinx it.
And is your website up now?
It is up. And
What is it?
I actually forget what the name of it is.
If you
but
tell
it
me
runs-
later, we will put it out there in the world.
I will email that to you.
I'm sure it will be along the lines of ronfriedman.com,
Okay,
but we don't know.
My next book is going to be 25 years of emails between Stanley and me.
I like this.
Stan always wanted me to do that, and now I will. And then I have another book that's almost finished called How to Write for Pictures That Move, Talk, Sing, and Dance, and Blow Up Cleveland. It's a book on learning how to screenwrite. I also am working on a feature film called The Black Black Watch
Right.
for Kevin Hart and I hope Liam Neeson. And the story is, which I mention in my book, that a young black man who's part of a cult adopted like a Fagin family to be criminals is a lookout on a robbery of a mafia bank in an Italian restaurant in Santa Monica. Also in Santa Monica is a former Kilty piper who, when he gets loaded, which is almost every night, will get his bagpipes and walk up and down Ocean Avenue playing the bagpipes. So this kid who's a lookout for the robbery hears the bagpipes, doesn't know what the hell it is, goes over to find out, just as the police, who have been paid by the mafia to protect their bank, show up. So the black kid runs with the bagpipes, the Kilty piper passes out, and in the morning he tracks down the kid to get his bagpipes back, at which time the criminals come to kill them, and so does the crooked cops. So they have to run for it, and the last scene are the Highland Games, where the lead pipers are Kevin Hart and Liam Neeson.
Well, thank you, Ron.
Yes.
I appreciate your time. You've been very giving throughout this whole conversation, as well as on the emails that we've been tracking.
Well, and tell Caleb, you send me his address, I will send him the manuscript.
I'll ask him. At this point, he may just prefer. Is the manuscript the same as the book, or does it have things that?
The book has some things in it the manuscript does not have,
Okay.
including some illustrations.
Okay.
So
We were going back and forth. We thought it'd be nice to have a manuscript, since I'm going to purchase a book, to have a manuscript and a book. But if the manuscript, in your view, isn't special, then I might just get him a book.
Okay.
What do you think?
Whatever he would like. Because I can finish printing up the manuscript.
Okay.
Or I can send him the book or give you your book and his book.
Sure,
here,
we'll figure that out tomorrow.
Okay.
If you just say so, I think you've shouted out Caleb. Ryan is the other host. Would you mind to say hello to Ryan?
Hello, Ryan.
Okay.
And hello, Manny, Mo, and Jack, Patty, Maxine, and Laverne, Doc, Happy, Sneezy, Sleepy, and Fetal Bomb.
And with that, I think we're good. Thank you, Ron.
We
I
are.
really appreciate your time. You're
My
a gentleman.
pleasure. Really
wonderful. Thank
love
you.
meeting you, and thank you for listening.
Wow, that was really something else. Well, here's what I'd like to here. Actually, I was really super excited for you to interview him. To me, it's like, wow, we've been talking about this guy, for 2 years, and he was a big part of this podcast and continues to be, and it's really cool. I asked him if he would interview. He said yes, and you did it. Mm-hmm. And so I guess you were there. I want to know, what kind of takeaways do you have from the experience? That you went and did it. I mean,
is this a real on-air question?
Yes.
Or are you just trying to set up when we actually do our on-air
this
question?
Is really it. I think it was amazing. I wish I could have been there, and I'm really glad that you and Mike were. This is the first time you've really interviewed somebody like that, and just overall, what do you want to say about that experience?
Well, I probably overly prepared, which is okay. I don't think there's anything ever wrong with being overly prepared, but I was really paranoid about it. But he was a very when I say paranoid, I mean I wanted to be cool with him. You know what I mean? I wanted him to know that I respected his work, but he wasn't really like that. He liked us by our email chatter that we had with him, and
there was an extensive email chain.
There was, and I think he was just game.
Sure,
and,
why not?
I mean, he knows he's got a legacy, and it seems evident to me he wants to preserve it. Mm-hmm. But he's a wonderful, charming guy with a lot of stories, and that's why I got caught up in a lot of his stories, and there wasn't that much Transformer stuff.
Yeah, the Transformer stuff doesn't come in until about halfway, but
or 3/4.
But that's okay. I mean,
he even tried. There was, I will say, it was a funny part to me
where he tried to steer it.
Yes, he tried to go. Well, let's talk about Transformers. You're like, no.
And then you steered it back away
because I wanted to talk to him about other stuff. Honestly,
that's good. I mean, I wanted to. I'm glad that I got to hear stuff about.
There were a lot of strings to pull. Like that whole Frank Lloyd Wright detour was crazy.
Well, he was an architect. He's got a lot of stories. If you've listened to the Gilbert Godfrey interview that he had, he has a lot of stories, and it's fun to kind of go on the ride with him.
Right.
He just offhandedly mentioned that Frank Lloyd Wright hit him with his cane, and I'm like, what is that story?
Well, Frank Lloyd Wright had he.
Oh, you know.
He had a yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he had a cane, and what Ron's mentioning is his kind of his estate or his school that Frank Lloyd Wright had.
Yeah, but he said he hit him with the cane. Why?
I don't know.
So you don't know?
Well, I
just know
I know he had a cane.
He was a stubborn. Frank Lloyd Wright was a stubborn man. Like one of the houses he built. There's a story where the people that bought the house obviously had a lot of money, and they moved into his house, this house that he built. And the story goes that they called Frank Lloyd Wright and said, "Your house, the roof is leaking, and it's pouring water onto my desk." And Frank Lloyd Wright's reply is, "Oh, move the desk."
Yeah, but a roof really shouldn't leak at all. No matter what's under it.
But that's part of we all know that. The story is...
I guess it's just a weird response, because that...
Frank Lloyd Wright took...
I think it's all just saying Frank Lloyd Wright is cantankerous, he was egotistical. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know anything about Frank Lloyd Wright other than the work that he produced, because I have books of it, but I never read a biography or anything. So sounds like he was an old dick, and it sounds
sure does.
But a well-designed dick.
Yes, it was. It's all angles, though.
And if the story is true, he nailed Ron Friedman with a cane. He said he wasn't on a first name basis with him as well when I brought that up. So, but no, I mean, there's just so many things that and I'm not trying to apologize for it, but I didn't know how much time I had, and I just didn't necessarily want to talk about Transformers all day, but I did have plenty of Transformers questions, and
certainly nothing that I put together made it to air. With the panic email that I got on Saturday or Friday night.
That panicked email was a product of me being overly prepared and paranoid.
It's fine. It's nice to know that you're prepared regardless of what happens.
I guess it's better than the alternative.
Yeah, totally.
3.
It's like you have them there. Like when I play music, I have my charts with me. I don't necessarily look at them when I play, but I feel much better if I know they're there.
I do that with pretty much any traveling or any, like, if I'm going... I tend to do the same thing, like prepare pretty well, like know everything that's going to be happening.
You don't travel.
What are you talking about?
He went to New York solo.
I go all the time. I go places all the time. I work for a travel company.
That's true, you do.
So I have 11 pages of questions here.
You know, that's the way it works sometimes. I think you did great.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
I'm really, really proud of you.
And you said that he enjoyed the game that you played with him.
Yeah, that was
He
awesome.
did say that. Yeah, the next day is when I collected all of our stuff that we have here. And he was, he put his hand on my shoulder. I really enjoyed the game. And then that made me feel good.
Nice.
If nothing else,
he puts his hand on your shoulder and goes, I really enjoyed the game and the interview. Thanks a lot, Alvin.
He is very good with names. I did not have to re-prompt him on any of your names.
He's sharp as a tack.
He knew.
Well, I've got a biblical name, so you know.
Of course, you've got that. My name is Hebrew too.
So is mine.
What? We've all got these Hebrew names.
Mine means little king.
Really?
So you're my mongrel dog.
Yes, I am. What's your name mean,
I've
Aaron?
been told that it means like the speaker.
I think it means man with glistening beard.
And that's because apparently Moses' brother or Moses had a stutter and Aaron had to speak for him. That's might be some false Hebrew legend I'm spouting here.
You should have had him sing
Like
the King's Speech.
Yes.
Never mind.
I haven't seen the King's Speech.
I haven't either. I just know about that.
Okay. All right. Well, this was a good episode.
I think it was a great episode and a great interview, and I
hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, we will.
We're back next week.
Joe
review.
We are not back next week.
Oh,
because Aaron has some traveling he has to do at the top of April, so we won't be able to record until the second week of April. So
we're postponing it.
So it'll come out at the normal.
This is a bonus, but then we're going to take a 2-week break before the next one.
Thank you. This is, the next Joe review episode, number 98, will be out on the 7th.
Okay, I think we need to number this 98 and make that 99.
This 97 is this.
Oh, okay.
I know what I'm doing sometimes. Logistics. Our listeners love them.
What are we going to do with that one honey, baby? You got to do something special for that.
I know. I was thinking about that too.
We should
like we did for the 50th.
Yeah.
Where we talked about it and did nothing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's going to probably be as much work. It's probably going to get the same results as my Mike Joe activity is.
Oh yeah, where are we?
Oh, I started doing that.
Plug that real quick.
Yeah,
I have an idea for one.
Yeah. We have a contest we put out there. It's joecustoms.com. You can create your own file card, G.I. Joe character, and so it's called G My Joe. You go through the file card, create a Joe character. You put it on your Twitter site or on your Facebook site, but probably better you put it on your Twitter site. And then tag us, and then we retweet it, and we put you in the pool for a contest. And at the end of the Joe episodes, we draw a random name of one of the participants from GMI Joe. And
there will probably be one participant.
When you win a prize. Right now, I'm winning the prize. I'm the only person that's done it.
Maybe if you didn't sound like Eeyore when you described the contest, people would get more excited.
Go on there, and you put it GMI Joe.
Hey, there's Peter Cullen is the voice of Eeyore.
It's true. By the way, it's a tie-in. We will retweet the site because whenever I went on there to do that, and I kind of started doing the process, it's not completely intuitive where to go on that site to do that. So we'll tweet that out again when we drop this episode.
One other thing I forgot to mention, I have to. I want to thank Dave Cabal. He gifted not me, but the podcast, the gift of this character, which is this beautifully sculpted and painted ROM character, a character I'm not familiar with, but I know is tied up in the Hasbro universe and in the IDW comics.
It's cool
towards the
end.
It's
classic looking.
Yeah, it looks really awesome. And then he also gave us a poster, which I'm going to return to him, and he's going to give us another poster. Long story there. But he is going to give us this awesome, I think I brought it up here, this Tom Whalen.
Ooh, it's so nice.
It's a screen printed Transformers poster.
It's really nice.
So
it's great.
So in my possession is a Ninja Turtles poster.
By mistake?
He accidentally brought the wrong poster.
I'm sure it's a badass Ninja
Gave
Turtles.
it to me. He was like, "You want this?" Gave it to me. But then later on, we talked about it, and we're gonna do a tradesies. So I gotta ship it back to him. But so
thank you so much.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, now we'll wrap it up.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Cybertron!
Blow cells, where we sell good.